First off, let me say, when I was a kid, I was a thug. I was straight up a thug. I hadn't realized this until now, but from the stories that my family keeps telling me, I was the most thuggish kid growing up. For the first 5 years of my life, I was all about that thug life. And when I was in preschool, apparently, I didn't want to do naps, okay? I was just against naps. Anytime the teacher said, hey, it's nap time, I would go into the other room that is specifically designed for playtime, and then people would get mad at me and they'd be like, Zach, it's nap time, you need to take a nap. I'd be like, I'm not tired. And so they'd start like arguing with me. I was like 2, and they were arguing with me. And so these kids, I don't know what happened. But at some point, my teacher had got so fed up that she just grabbed me like around my waist and held me there until my dad got there. Now, when she told me my dad was coming, I was freaking out because my dad was going to whoop my ass. I wasn't ready for that. So I started like struggling. I'm like, let me go! Let me go! Let me go! Let me go! And I punched my teacher in the face. This is a true story. This is something they've been telling me since I was 5, that I punched one of my teachers in my face. My stepmom told me this, my stepsisters told me this, my dad's told me this, my mom's told me this, my grandma's told me this, my brothers told me this. This is like a 7-time thing. Apparently, I punched my teacher in the face. You wish you were as hardcore as I am. I was like a big thug in kindergarten too. In kindergarten, I draw butts, and I put people's name over it. I remember once I went up to the whiteboard, drew a butt, and then named it Alex. Alex was offended, because I was a thug. In first grade, I got into my first fight. For the whole year, I'd been like giving my teacher attitude, and I really didn't like my teacher. Like, I remember in first grade was the first time I ever tied my shoe too. Like, I'd always been trying to figure it out, but one day I was just like fiddling around with my shoelaces, and I figured it out, and I screamed in joy. Like, I was just sitting there on like the little color-coded carpet, and I was like, ah! Oh my gosh! And Miss Wiener, that was her name. I'm not making this up. Her name was Miss Wiener. Miss Wiener looks up and she says, hey, calm down. What is wrong with you? I said, I tied my shoe. And she goes, so what? And she goes back to reading the book. I'm like, man, you're a bitch. I said, that's right. I called my teacher a bitch when I was in first grade. You know why? I ain't going back to jail. My first fight, I actually ended up making my teacher cry. I didn't punch my teacher again, okay? My dad beat that out of me. I didn't punch my teacher again. What happened was this kid, I turned around because this kid was making fun of me, when all of a sudden this kid like smacks me in the back of the head as hard as he can. And at that point, like, I'd never hit a kid before. I hit teachers because I'm a thug, but I'd never hit a kid before. So I turned around and I roundhoused this kid in the face. I'm not shitting you. Like, I turn around and I'm just what? So he falls down to the ground, starts crying, and then runs to tell the teacher. Now, this was one of the lunch or recess monitors who went up to my first grade teacher and she goes, Zach kicked a boy in the face. And all of a sudden, our neighbor teacher turns me around and goes, really? And I look up at Miss Wiener and she's like, kicking? Really? I know someone who can solve your problem. And the teacher turned me around, goes, go. I have no idea where they wanted me to go. So what I did was I just went down to Mrs. Poole's room. Mrs. Poole was my kindergarten teacher. I go down to Mrs. Poole's room and she's like, Zach, what are you doing here? I was like, my teacher told me to go. I didn't know where to go. But like, what'd you do? I kicked the kid. She's like, go to the office. So I go, oh, okay. So I go to the office, and the first thing I do when I get there is they're like, Zach, what are you doing here? And I say these exact words. A kid hit me, and I hit him back. And she goes, a kid hit you? Okay, all right, go to the nurse's office. So I go to the nurse's office, and she goes, Zach, what are you doing here? I say, a kid hit me, and I hit him back. I'm honest. So she says, where did he hit you? The back of the head. She gives me an ice pack, like all nurses do. And I have this ice pack on the back of my head. I'm not even in pain. I'm just like curious as to why I'm not in trouble yet. So I have the ice pack on. She's like, you feeling better? I was like, I'm not in pain. I was told to come here. So she's like, oh, okay. Well, I'll send you back up to class. So I go back up to my first grade class, and my teacher is still crying her eyes out. And she's like, I just don't know what to do. Like, why is he so evil? Like, he's just a bad kid. And that same mean teacher who told me to go to the office looks at me and she goes, you lied to the office. Get back down there. I told them what actually happened. So when I come back down there, they all look, they're all down there like I just told them that like little Sally Sue robbed a bank, but it was really me because I'm a thug. So she goes, Zach, you lied to us. You lied. You said you were attacked. I said, I hit a kid because he hit me. And she goes, yes, but he didn't hit you. And I go, yes, he did. He hit me in the back of the head. That's not what your teacher said, Zach. So I get sent to the vice principal's office, and I tell her what happened. That this kid was making fun of me, and I turned around to walk away, and he smacked me in the back of the head, so I roundhoused him in the fucking face. 'Cause I'm a thug! She looks at me, she goes, Zach, you can't go around hitting people. Like, I keep emphasizing that this kid hit me first. She doesn't care. All they say is, do you know what the kid's name was? I was like, no, I don't even quite remember what he looks like. And she goes, well, that's too bad, because unless you can bring him here, we're going to have to suspend you. I'd never been suspended before. I didn't even know what suspension was. So I said, okay. I didn't think to myself, like now as an adult, I know that they could have just asked the on-duty monitor who the kid was or what he looked like, and they could have just cleared up the whole situation. But they chose not to do that. So my mom comes down to the school, pissed off, and all my teachers had told her was that I got into a fight and I kicked a kid in the face. And that's all my mom heard. So my mom comes down and she grabs me by my arm, she takes me to the car, starts yelling at me. She gives me a spanking when I get home, and then I said, okay, well, I don't get, like, why am I the only one in trouble here? So I made my teacher cry. I punched my teacher in the face. I drew butts and named them after kids in my class like a motherfucking boss. But I think my crowning achievement in elementary school was I got a wedgie from a teacher. I ended up pissing off a teacher so much that she called me the N-word and gave me a wedgie and then put me in a chair. So what was happening was the whole day I'd been acting up. Like, I'm not even gonna I wasn't like being a good boy and this was unwarranted. This was me, I was being a dick. So I'm sitting there, I'm acting up, I'm laughing when I shouldn't be. I'm like telling jokes, I'm drawing everywhere. I don't give a crap. I'm doing whatever the hell I want. It's a substitute teacher. She can't tell me what to do. So I'm drawing, and then like she says something, I think she was reading Peter Pan to the class. And I go, man, I'm bored. So she looks up at me and she goes, well, I guess it would go against a nigger not to be able to read. I didn't know what nigger meant. So I was just like, I can read. What are you talking about? So she says, come down here. I'm like, okay. So I sit down in the middle of the classroom. Like we had like rows and assigned seating in like the little color paletted rainbow carpet. I sat down and not on my seat because I'm a thug. I don't listen to the rules. I sit down and I'm watching, and then my friend Rashawn's like, "Hey, that's my seat." And I'm like, "Shut up, Rashawn!" And the class just because "shut up" is like the C word, and so she goes, "That's it. Get your damn ass over here!" And she grabs me by my underwear, picks me up, walks me back to the seat I just came from, and pushes me down. And at that point, I'm bawling my eyes out. Because, even thugs cry. I just got a wedgie from a teacher. And I just figured, because of how, school's been going, that even if they attack me, it's still my fault. That's just what, like, the teachers had taught me at that point. So I didn't say anything to my mom, my brother. I didn't say anything to anybody. Like, the entire first grade class saw this. Nobody said anything ever.